AITAH for telling my mom she won't be able to see my daughter for 2 months after she's born if she calls my wife to complain about her birth plan again? I, 33 am. My wife is currently 7 months pregnant with our daughter. The first time she was pregnant, she went into premature labor and had a stillbirth. It was a devastating experience for both of us, but especially my sweet wife. She's finally getting excited about this pregnancy, but there is a part of her that is afraid to get her hopes up in case something goes wrong. She asks me several times a day if I think something will happen and has been having nightmares about having another stillbirth. Luckily, her doctor says everything is going well so far. And I'm confident everything will work out okay this time. My wife and I are from the same town, but live around 9 hours driving distance from our families. Right now, the plan is for my wife's mother to drive up once my wife goes into labor. She's going to support my wife during the labor and also stay for a week or so after the baby is born to help us get settled. My wife explicitly said that she doesn't want any visitors aside from her mom for the first few weeks after the baby is born. She told me wants my family to visit a few weeks after the baby is born and even said my parents could stay in the guest room so they get more quality time with their granddaughter once we're ready for visitors. I truly just want this process to go as smoothly as possible for my wife in light of what she went through the last time around, and so I'm 100% behind whatever plan makes her feel the most comfortable. Yesterday, I got a call from my mom asking about the birth plan. I explained our current plan, and my mom said that she and my dad would drive up once my wife goes into labor. She didn't mention being in the delivery room, but said they'd be in the waiting room to meet their granddaughter. She also said they'd stay at a hotel nearby and so they could spend time with the baby once she's home. I told my mom that we're excited for her to come up and meet the baby, but we'd prefer if she wait a few weeks until we're settled. My mom said that my MIL is coming up right after the birth, and so she doesn't understand why she can't be there. I explained that my MIL is there to support my wife during the labor and help her get settled after the baby is born. I added that my wife obviously feels more comfortable with her mom and doesn't feel pressure to have the house spotless and be the perfect hostess when her mom comes over. I also said that we want her and my dad to get a lot of time with the baby, and we don't know how my wife is going to be feeling immediately after the birth. My mom started rambling about how boy's mom always gets the short end of the stick and everyone should be included when it comes to major milestones like the birth of a child. The funny thing is that my younger sister had her first baby about 6 months ago. She can't stand her MIL, and she still hasn't given her the green light to come and visit. My mom and my sister have both justified this by saying her MIL is rude and difficult to be around. This is true, but also, my sister holds grudges and doesn't get along with most relatives. I responded to my mom by asking why she's okay with my sister keeping her baby away from her MIL for 6 months if everyone should be included. My mom was furious. She said that there was more to the situation than I realize and that this situation is completely different since she's always been perfectly nice to my wife. I asked what I was missing, and my mom just said that my sister's MIL ruined her bridal shower by bringing her obnoxious friends. I said regardless of the situation, I want to make this experience as stress-free as possible for my wife given what happened last time. I said that she just wants me and my mom for a while, and I understand her perspective. I told my mom I love her and am excited for her to visit. And will make sure she gets plenty of time with her granddaughter. She seemed disappointed, but I thought we were on the same page. A few hours ago, my wife told me that she got a call from my mother. She said my mom was crying and saying she felt excluded and like we didn't want her to meet the baby. My wife is a sweetheart and a people pleaser and she truly took this to heart. She seemed stressed and asked me if we were doing the right thing. I told my wife I wanted her to feel as comfortable as possible and that I'd deal with my mom moving forward. I was furious to say the least. The stress isn't good for my wife, and she's already under a lot of it because of her fears that history will repeat itself. I called my mom back and told her that if she calls my wife about the situation again, she won't get to see the baby for 2 months. I said I'd add a month for every call after that. I meant this kind of as a joke, but I was being serious that she can't be putting this stress on my wife right now. My mom said we were excluding her and my father and that they raised me better than this. My dad called and said I was wrong to give my mom an ultimatum and punish her for expressing her feelings. He said that I was using time with the baby as a form of control. I explained that I want them to have a good relationship with my kid, but I desperately don't want any extra stress on my wife right now. My dad says I owe my mom an apology for saying I'll add months to the wait time every time she speaks to my wife about the birth plan. I disagree. Am I the asshole? Moving on to story 2. I 33M caught my fiancé 32F lying. Do I bother trying to salvage what's left? I caught my fiancé/girlfriend of 9 years lying to me in a pretty significant way. To preface this, we were set to be married and I had a medical issue that caused us to postpone our wedding for several months. We fought about that and I put my foot down saying my health, both short and long term, was more important than a wedding. She screamed and yelled and cried and even got her mom involved, and before the end of that argument and day she told me to leave multiple times. I had enough of the way I was being treated and talked to, so I packed a suitcase and went to stay with my parents for just under 2 weeks, and they only live 15 minutes away. She begged me to return nearly every day while I was gone, but I didn't want to walk back into the same situation and same argument. When I finally did return home, I noticed changes in her behavior. She had exhibited these before, but not in the same magnitude. Always on her phone, quick to put it face down when I was around, quick to close out of specific apps like Snapchat. I didn't think much of it at first, as we had a good trusting relationship for years and I never doubted her before. This type of behavior became more and more frequent and my suspicions started to grow. My overthinking got the best of me and I picked up her phone to look at the lock screen for notifications, and I did this on 2 or 3 occasions. Once when she was fresh out of the shower and another when she was constantly attached to her phone. I saw Snapchat notifications that someone with a male username had saved her snap. The person's name was not of anyone she talked about or that I knew existed. My suspicions grew more as she would go out late claiming to be with her girlfriends at a specific bar/restaurant, but then wouldn't come home until late even though the place she said she was at closed 2 hours prior. Again, I tried not to be bothered by it as I was healing and out of work and trying to mend the relationship from the argument that caused all of this in the first place. I know I should have asked, but I didn't want to accuse her as I didn't have any hard evidence. I decided to collect evidence. I put an AirTag in her car without her knowledge. Tested for function and confirmed it was working properly. She told me she was going out with her girlfriend from work and I said okay and have fun. According to the AirTag, she was at a bar that she had never been to before to my knowledge and was not the type of bar she would typically go to, and it was definitely not a bar her friend would have suggested or gone to. She came home earlier than normal, so I let it slide. The next time she went to go see the same work friend, she was going to stay over at her house. Now, I know the friend and I've talked to her multiple times before, so I didn't think much of it. The AirTag wasn't working 100%, so I never got a good fix on position until the next morning when she was nearly an hour and half east of where she claimed to be. When I asked her how things were with her girlfriend, she said fine and that they went to breakfast. It was a wild-faced lie. I knew she was never at that place. I bought a better tracker with active live feed and placed it in her car without her knowledge. She left to go see her girlfriend again and I had to stay home as I had a doctor's appointment I couldn't miss. The tracker picked up her car over an hour away and nowhere near where she said she'd be, and she was gone for over 5 to 6 hours for what originally was supposed to be a lunch. I even called her when it was getting late and she picked up and lied about where she was and who she was with. The friend she claimed she was with typically takes the time to say hi to me and ask how I'm doing when she's on the phone with my fiancé or when I call her and she's there. But she rushed me off the phone and within 10 to 15 minutes her car was on the move and it took her an hour to get home. Everything was starting to add up. Especially when she became defensive when I asked about what she was doing and such. I said to myself I'd give her one more chance. She did it again, claiming to go get dinner with the same. I waiting for her to take the wrong route on the GPS tracker. I grabbed my things and followed the tracker. I found her car in the same random parking lot as last time. Figuring she was picked up, I waited. She ended up posting a story on social media. Eventually, I was able to ID the restaurant from Google and social media. I quick started over to the restaurant, but I got there too late and she was gone. Say what you want, I know it sounds psycho-stalkerish, but I never once questioned her about where she goes or who she was with. I waited in the parking lot and sent her a text asking about when she would be home. Shortly after that, a car pulled up next to hers and she got out. I took a photo and video and quick drive out of the lot and headed home. I beat her home by about 10 to 15 minutes. When she arrived, I acted like nothing happened. She lied about where she was and what she was doing and who she was with as I asked the normal questions of how was dinner, how was her friend, and so on. She even tried to hide the bag that she took home her leftovers in, and I confirmed I had the correct restaurant from earlier. Next day I spent the day with her as if nothing happened, went with her to go get her nails done and everything. It was festering and eating away at me all day, so as we got ready for bed and laid down, I asked her how long she had been lying to me and who was the guy she was seeing. She tried to deny everything until I told her exactly where she was the previous night and details down to the guy's car, make, model, color. She continued to try and lie, and every time I caught her I'd tell her. Turns out the night she didn't come home, she stayed at a hotel with this guy. She swears up and down nothing happened and he's just a friend. I feel like such an idiot for wanting to believe her and believe she remained sexually faithful. She didn't help herself at all by deleting every trace of evidence on her phone, like calls and texts and such. So when she offered up her phone for me to go through, it wasn't even worth the effort. Part of me wants to fix this and try to mend things. Part of me wants to walk away from it altogether. Sorry for the long read, there's just so much, and I know I'm leaving stuff out, like her hiding her phone calls when I'd come home unexpectedly and such. I just don't know what to do. I've never had to deal with a situation like this worth salvaging, or is this with the investment of time? Is it just part of a sunk cost fallacy? Thanks for tuning in to today's story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button to show your support. Love diving into more stories like these? Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell icon so you never miss out on the latest uploads. And hey, if you know someone who'd love these stories, be sure to share this video with them. Stay tuned for more amazing stories coming your way soon.